What's up, Gooners? Welcome back to AFC Daily News. We've got 3 massive Arsenal stories to bring you today with the latest news and updates coming out of the Emirates. So if you're an Arsenal fan, you're definitely going to want to hear this. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and let's get straight into it. Let's jump straight into the first story because The Athletic have just confirmed that Eddie Howe has stepped down as Newcastle United manager after 5 years in charge, and the implications for Bruno Guimarães and Arsenal could not be more seismic or more immediate. Ben Jacobs has reported that Howe actually told Newcastle's hierarchy he wanted to leave several weeks ago, agreeing to stay only until a replacement was found. Matthias Gisel of Al Ahly is set to take over. And the reason behind Howe's decision, while complex and personal, is directly connected to the summer that has unfolded around him. Gordon sold to Barcelona, Tonali sold to Tottenham, his captain pushing to join Arsenal, European football nowhere in sight. The man who built Newcastle's modern era has watched it being dismantled piece by piece and has finally decided he has seen enough. Now think about what Howe's departure means for the Guimaraes transfer specifically. Everything that was making this deal complicated on a human level has just changed overnight. Guimaraes told Newcastle he wanted to leave and handled it respectfully because of his deep affection for the club, and most specifically for the manager who brought him to England, made him captain, and built an entire system around his qualities. That man is now walking out of St. James's Park himself. The last great emotional barrier that was keeping Guimaraes from pushing harder for this move has just been removed by circumstances completely outside anyone's control. Arsenal are in advanced talks and optimistic over a deal. The Gunners feel anything above £75 million stands a real chance of getting it done, while Newcastle sources point towards closer to £85 million. That gap is now £10 million between two clubs negotiating a transfer that the player, the buying club, and now, with Howe's resignation, essentially the entire Newcastle football operation has quietly accepted is going to happen. Guimaraes already told Newcastle he wanted to move to Arsenal. The one man he genuinely did not want to let down has now made his own decision and walked away. Is it possible that Howe's exit was itself partly driven by the inevitability of Guimaraes' departure? Perhaps. The timing is extraordinary, but whatever the precise reason, the door at St. James's Park has just swung wide open. Clarity is coming very, very soon, and when it arrives, Bruno Guimarães will be wearing red and white. So Gooners, with Eddie Howe now gone and the last major human obstacle to this transfer removed, do you believe Guimaraes signs for Arsenal within the next 72 hours? Drop your prediction in the comments right now. This is the moment we have all been waiting for. Now let's talk about Vinicius Junior, because South American football expert Tim Vickery has just gone on ESPN FC and delivered the most authoritative and credible assessment yet of whether this extraordinary transfer is actually possible. And what he said should make every single Gooner sit up and pay very close attention. Vickery was direct and specific. I think this is a possibility. There's a number of reasons why this could happen. From a Vinny perspective, there's 1 year left on his contract. He can go in a year's time for free, so Real Madrid, could they cash in now? Because there aren't that many clubs who could afford him. Arsenal would be one of them. From one of the most respected voices on South American football, a man who has watched Vinicius develop since before most Arsenal fans knew who he was, that is a significant and considered assessment. But the tactical and political detail Vickery added is the most illuminating part of his entire analysis. He identified the Mbappe problem at Real Madrid as the fundamental driver behind why this transfer makes sense from the club's perspective as well as the players. Madrid made a problem for themselves when they brought in Kylian Mbappe, tactically and of egos. Vini is a left winger who wants to cut in, and Mbappe, the space he most likes, he likes dropping and drifting wide on the left to cut in. So you've got two key players who both really want the same space. Vini won 2 Champions Leagues for Real, he's entitled to think he's king of the hill, and then Mbappe comes in and is given that same status. Ancelotti couldn't make that work. No one has been able to make that work subsequently. That tactical conflict is not theoretical. It is not media speculation. It is the lived daily reality of the most expensive squad in football history, and it has been undermining both players' effectiveness for over a year. Real Madrid signed Yan Diomande for over €100 million on a 5-year contract, a left-winger who operates in exactly the space Vinicius loves. The succession planning is not subtle. It is happening in public. The detail that Vinicius's camp have hired leading sports analytics firms to simulate how he would fit into various top-tier tactical systems, and that Arteta's Arsenal are viewed as a highly compatible destination adds another remarkable dimension to this story. This is not a passive consideration. Vinicius's representation is actively modelling his future, and Arsenal are being identified as the right football environment for what he wants to do next. 12 months left on his contract. Real Madrid prepared to sell rather than lose him for free. A player whose camp is already analysing life after the Bernabeu. Arsenal positioned with the financial firepower and the tactical identity that suits him perfectly. This is not cloud cuckoo land. Tim Vickery is right. This is a real possibility. So Gooners, after Tim Vickery's expert analysis and everything we know about Vinicius's contract situation at Real Madrid, how confident are you that Arsenal actually pull off the most sensational signing in the club's entire history this summer? Tell me everything in the comments. Now let us talk about a story that changes the attacking transfer landscape across European football significantly, because David Ornstein and Fabrizio Romano have both confirmed that Eli Junior Kroupi has suffered a 5th metatarsal fracture in pre-season training that required surgery and is now facing 3 to 4 months on the sidelines. The impact on Arsenal specifically is meaningful but not devastating, because the Gunners were never leading the race for Krooppy this summer. The 20-year-old Bournemouth sensation, 13 Premier League goals in 21 starts, valued at approximately £111 million, was viewed as an exciting option, perhaps below Alvarez on the list. But the timing of this injury effectively removes him from Arsenal's considerations entirely for this window. You do not spend anywhere near that kind of money on a player who will not be available until November at the earliest, and who has just undergone surgery on a fracture that requires careful management in rehabilitation. The broader market implications of Kroopy's injury are more significant for Arsenal than the direct impact on their own planning. Every club that was considering Krooppy as an attacking option this summer must now look elsewhere. That redirects transfer appetite and financial firepower into a market where Arsenal are already competing for Vinicius, Alvarez and Williams simultaneously. The clubs who lose Krooppy as an option will increase competition for exactly the players Arsenal want, which means Berta must move quickly and decisively before the field gets more crowded. For Krooppy personally, this is heartbreaking timing. A teenager who was on the verge of the biggest transfer of his career has had that opportunity delayed by a pre-season injury that was entirely beyond his control. The 5th metatarsal is a notoriously sensitive fracture for footballers, requiring patience, precision in rehabilitation, and careful management on return. Bournemouth will protect their asset intelligently. When he returns to fitness, the interest will still be there. The talent that produced those 13 Premier League goals in his debut season does not disappear because of a 3-month injury. But for now, every club pursuing him, including Arsenal, must redirect their attention. The Krooppy chapter of this window is over. So Gooners, does Krooppy's injury actually free up Arsenal's focus to go all in on Vinicius and Alvarez? Or do you feel genuine sadness about missing out on what could have been a generational talent at the Emirates? Drop your honest take right now. Alright Gooners, smash that subscribe button right now if you haven't already. With Howe gone, Guimaraes incoming, Vinicius in the conversation, and the window entering its most dramatic final weeks, you absolutely cannot afford to miss a single update. Hit that button immediately, completely free. Until next time, Gooners, come on you Gunners.